This is your news source evening bulletin for today, Tuesday, the 19th day of March in the year 2024. I'm Gordon Mosley reporting, and here's what we're tracking tonight. A Dazzle housing scheme East Coast Demerara family has been thrown into mourning over the shooting death of their daughter, 24-year-old Ashanti Liverpool. The incident took place early this morning in the East Coast Demerara village. According to reports, Ashanti Liverpool was at home with her boyfriend when her twin sister's ex-boyfriend, Stephen Hope, turned up at the house with a high-powered rifle in his hand, seeking his ex-girlfriend's whereabouts. The man, who is a security guard, had reportedly relieved one of his workmates of the weapon under the pretense that a supervisor had sent him for it. Back at the house, it was reported that Ashanti Liverpool jumped out of bed after the sister's ex-boyfriend showed up and ran out of the house in an effort to warn the sister about his presence at the property. She was shot from behind by the man as she ran outside of the yard towards the roadway. She managed to make it to a neighbor's yard where she collapsed and died. A police report said the suspect then made his way to a location where one of his colleagues was on duty. He reportedly asked that colleague to take a look at the gun that he had in his possession since it was jammed. As the colleague was doing that, he heard a gunshot go off on the inside of the location and realized then that the man had picked up his service weapon and shot himself to the chest. The colleague was unaware of the earlier shooting incident. The injured suspect was taken to the Georgetown Hospital, where he remains in a critical condition. The devastated sister, Ashanti Liverpool, remains in shock over the death of her twin at the hands of her ex-boyfriend. Meanwhile, the dead woman's boyfriend related to the media exactly what took place.
Yeah, then the bed with me, girl, lay down, right? Lay down. Bob say lay down, me she get off in. Tell me she like me jacket. They lay down on the bed. Bob say here, the nice door open, bad up. Come in, man, come in the house. She not come in the house, no man, she not come in the house. Thing pull open the door, back door, come in the house. Put she open my bedroom door, me she there in. Come in with the big AK. Why Shanty there? Why Shanty there? Say, boy, go outside there, boy, the girl is somewhere outside, boy. You say the girl is somewhere outside, Babs, me girl lay down thing. Then me girl see the gun, me girl get vexed, me girl say. Now me say, see you going for me door, pick up me jacket, straight on, run out, run past you, she run past you, he there behind she. Run she down. Run she down when he turn here, so. Bust two shots here, so. Bust two shots. He said, many bust shots, so slow down. Me ain't and go forward. He said, come in with a key here. People in the scene, I think, here, bang, 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 again. 3 more shots. I say, one thing. Wait for see this man, but when they see, man do so walk back, coming back to me there. Is there? They must be about 12 feet away. So I say, boy, you want me, girl, boy, with me, girl, boy. Man, even stream, man, just come in. And then with the and think gone back on the bike, pick up the bike right gone. Come now, me looking finding me girl 2 chair, I can't find me girl, no way, I can't find me girl. Now I find me at 4 o'clock, the man, dead shoot up.
About what time is things up?
12, 5 past 12, 10 past 12, this man get the CK less than half now, we going bad from a security form, them kind of thing like that.
But he
me girl get no problem, me girl, you know, you nothing, no, if you check phone, no conversation, nothing, you understand? Nothing me in the girl alone thing, plus the night, all every night me girl reasoning. You understand? Me girl reasoning, me girl change the thing and tell me girl, tell me by you don't know if the girl want to move roll and thing, you say it me. Babs thing there, them come, the girl, tell you, hey, you gotta beat out, you understand? You buy pick up your thing, break up everything. Shy away, chain, couple chain, shy away, chain, break up everything. Gone away. Come back with the gun.
And the neighbor also recalled the incident this morning.
We were home sleeping, and all that we heard is 1 shot fire. And afterwards, 2 other shots as if like in the house, the other 2 shots fire. And all that I told my wife, I said, just remain lying, don't get up. I said, when you're hearing bullet, you have to go the closest place to the ground and relax yourself. And just as we lie down there, we heard the police calling for inside. So I said, I wonder what's going on there. I come outside there, open, and I come to the door, gate there, and I talk to them. They asked me if I know about anything. I said, other than the 3 shots that I heard, nothing more. They said, okay, don't open the gate. They left and they go away. And they come back must about 2 other times, and this morning they said they would like the gate to open. And that is because a body should be in the yard. I said, a body? He said, yes. He said, a woman. I said, woman? I thought you always be looking for men. Me and no woman. And we go down at the back. When we go down the back where we normally burn the garbage, there we realize blood on the ground. I said, wow, somebody indeed got shot. And when we come out to the front, there was a woman lying face down to the ground.
Police investigators spent several hours at the scene early this morning, gathering evidence and speaking to family members. Tonight, the probe is ongoing. More news coming up in just a moment.
It's one of your biggest goals, getting your own home, where memories are made, where happiness lives. You may feel that home ownership or renovation is beyond your reach, but we at Republic want you to know that there's always a way. Ask us about our suite of mortgages. Let's help make your housing wishes come true, or advise on how the equity in your existing home can finance other dreams and goals. Call or go online to learn more.
Holiday spending put a dent in your cash. Top up your pockets in the Cash Splash promotion. Win over $5 million, including over $1 million in our weekly draws. Just purchase any Buster, Turbo, Fruita, Cool Kids or Viva. Look for the 8-digit code starting with 786. Then visit Facebook or IG at Buster Guyana or Turbo_Caribbean for more details.
In our search for sophistication and grace, the Super Stylistics team invites you to be part of something extraordinary. Mothers and daughters who possess aura and presence that transcend through time. Step forward and become part of the Mother and Daughter Pageant 2024. Join our legacy as we redefine elegance for generations to come. The search for the epitome of timeless love begins now. Call 226-2825 or 626-0460 to secure your spot in the Mother and Daughter Pageant 2024.
Well, Minister of Governance Gail Teixeira today said the government is taking steps and has been making efforts to weed out corrupt police officers and those officers who violate the rights of citizens. During Guyana's appearance before the UN Human Rights Committee this morning for its periodic report for a second consecutive day, the question of police abuses was raised. The committee also raised the issue of extrajudicial killings by members of the Guyana Police Force.
A question was asked about the Quinton Bacchus killing by the police. The police officer was arrested and charged. He's also been dismissed from the Guyana Police Force. These steps show he was not acting in accordance with the police practice and protocols. The prosecution is ongoing of the officer.
In response, Minister Teixeira said steps have already been taken to professionalize the Guyana Police Force. In addition, she told the committee that citizens who are aggrieved by police conduct can approach the courts for justice, stating that the courts of Guyana are open and accessible to persons who feel they have been wrongfully dealt with by the police.
In 2021, 13 police officers were charged. In 2022, 14 were charged. And in 2023, 6 were charged. So that there are efforts. In terms of these figures may look small to you, but in terms of what was before, this is an improvement in the number of police who are held accountable.
In addition, the committee heard that 26 police officers have been charged and are before the courts for interpersonal violence with their partners or ex-partners. The Guyana Police Force has been coming in for harsh criticism for the way in which it has been handling certain matters. In the last week alone, the police force has been at the center of attention after a police sergeant was shot dead by another rank during an operation in an interior location. The police also reported an incident last week in which a car being driven by a police sergeant came under gunfire from 5 police officers who claimed they mistook the car for one linked to a crime. Attorney for the Guyana Teachers Union, Darren Wade, today withdrew his application for the Teachers Union after the High Court indicated it had no jurisdiction to treat with the majority of the orders and declarations that were being sought in the application. The application was filed last week after talks broke down between the GTU and the Education Ministry. In the application, the union sought a number of orders and declarations, including a High Court order mandating the government to engage in collective bargaining for the period 2019 to 2023, and an order for the Chief Education Officer, Saddam Hussein, and the Permanent Secretary of the Education Ministry, Shanil Hussein Uttar, to be held in contempt of court for refusing to collective bargaining for the period 2019 to 2023. But from the onset of today's hearing in the High Court, Justice Samuel Kissoon noted that the court had no jurisdiction to treat with the majority of the orders and declarations that were being sought, with the exception of one order which sought the disclosure of all correspondences between the union and the Education Ministry as it relates to the collective bargaining discussions. It was also pointed out by the High Court judge that the notice of application was filed just days before the hearing of the substantive matter brought by the union, which is scheduled to be heard tomorrow. It was noted that the majority of the orders and declarations ought to flow from the substantive matter and not at this interim stage. Outside the courtroom, Wade told reporters that he withdrew the application after the Attorney General Senior Counsel Anil Nandlal gave an undertaking to produce documents, including minutes of meetings between the union and the Education Ministry, which dealt with financial matters.
Why was my application withdrawn? Because the Attorney General gave an undertaking to the court to produce the documents, and it was on that basis the court invited me, and you were there, invited me to withdraw the application on the basis of the undertaking, which he reneged on before the court, and the court was forced to order those documents.
However, while the Attorney General initially agreed to provide the documents, he withdrew the commitment, arguing that the documents being requested by the union are within his possession, and there was no reason for the Education Ministry to produce them. It was after much deliberation and repeated objections by the Attorney General that the High Court ordered Minister Nandlal to produce all documents, including agendas and minutes of the meetings that took place. Outside the courtroom, the Attorney General said the application filed by Wade lacked merit.
Well, first of all, we must get the facts straight. Mr. Darren Wade brought us here to court in a most ridiculous application, seeking orders that could not have been granted, orders that cannot be granted, orders that were improperly claimed, and the whole application was misconceived from top to bottom. The court was very kind and very, very generous to him. The court granted him leave to withdraw and discontinue the proceedings.
As argued in the court, Nandlal said the state should not be made to produce documents that are already within the possession of the union. The GTU president, Mark Light, however, told the court that the union does not have records of the meetings held that focus on the issue of salary increases as contended by the chief education officer.
Now, there is a conflict. Mr. Chief Education Officer has alleged a particular narrative in his affidavit. The GTU is alleging a different narrative. So you have two affidavits that are conflicting. In my view and in my learning of the law, the conventional and legally permissible thing to do in those circumstances is that you put the two witnesses in the witness box and you cross-examine them based upon what they have said on the oath in an effort to reconcile the differences. A different method was chosen here. The respondent, who has nothing to prove in the case, has been ordered to produce minutes, which we will do. But the applicant has moved this court. The applicant is asking the court for reliefs. The applicant has to prove its case.
And Senior Counsel Roysdale Ford, who is representing the Guyana Trades Union Congress, a party in the matter, told reporters it is important for the Education Ministry to provide the evidence to support its contention.
These documents are critical in the resolution of the issues. The government, through the Ministry of Education, is contending that a number of financial measures which are set out in their affidavit form part of a discussion or collaborative process of negotiation. The GTUC and the GTU, we are contending the opposite, that those measures pointed out in paragraph 50 of the affidavit of Saddam Hussein were unilateral impositions. They are critical for the resolution of this case. It goes to the question as to the legality of the strike and in all circumstances whether the strike would have been justified.
The Attorney General has been given 24 hours to produce the documents. The substantive case will be heard tomorrow, during which a number of union and education officials are expected to be questioned and cross-examined.
Mobil 1 is more than oil. It's many oils. It transforms at the molecular level. When cold, it's thicker than honey. When hot, it's thinner than water. Mobil 1 adapts and readapts to last longer. 16,000 kilometers between oil changes. That's your engine evolved.
Sol Guyana is the authorized distributor of Mobil lubricants.
At the most critical life-changing moments, the National Insurance Scheme is here to ensure that your needs are covered. Access reimbursement for medical expenses for various aspects of your medical care. We know that eye care is of utmost importance. Receive assistance with our Spectacle Care voucher. Visiting the dentist? Dental care is also covered under our sickness benefit services. Offset the funeral expenses of a loved one with costs covered by our funeral benefits. National Insurance Scheme. We're there every step of the way.
Look at the breathtaking beauty of the Essequibo, from its pristine rivers to its abundant resources. It's a treasure that belongs to Guyana, and we ask Venezuela to respect the rule of international law.
Our commitment to this land is not just about ownership. It's about preserving its beauty and resources for our people and future generations.
The controversy between Guyana and Venezuela was settled internationally as full, perfect and final in 1899. Essequibo belongs to Guyana.
While appearing before the UN Human Rights Committee again today, Minister of Governance Gil Teixeira responded to questions surrounding the allegations of corruption in the signing of that 2016 production sharing agreement between the ExxonMobil company and the government that was in place at the time. Minister Teixeira was asked by one of the UN Human Rights Committee members whether an investigation had been carried out into the allegations of corruption involving Exxon and the granting of the 2016 oil production license. In response, the minister pointed to a lack of evidence and proof to move ahead with any such probe.
The question was asked about 2016 production sharing agreement that was signed and secretly signed. There's been no investigation between 2016 and 2020 of that, and nor from then to now. There may be many concerns that people have, and may even be convinced that there was some form of cozy relationship. However, there is no proof, evidence that we can move forward on this.
There have been widespread calls for a review and or withdrawal of the 2016 production sharing agreement signed under the former APNU-AFC government. While the current government had also raised concern about the PSA during its time in office, it has also pointed to the need to respect the sanctity of contracts. There has been no move to amend the 2016 agreement. However, the government has updated the agreement for future oil contracts. During the UN Human Rights hearing today, the government minister was also quizzed about the role of the Environmental Protection Agency in relation to its oversight of the oil and gas sector and its independence. Teixeira defended the EPA and noted its work over the years in the oil and gas sector, and even its work on addressing flaring concerns by Exxon. Guyana started oil production back in 2019. The 38th Food and Agriculture Organization Regional Conference for Latin America and the Caribbean Ministerial Session opened yesterday with a call by President Irfan Ali for there to be a greater political will to address the food security challenges of the region. In delivering the keynote address at the opening, which took place at the Arthur Chung Conference Center, Mr. Ali said that while the biggest threats to food security are well known, climate change, environmental shocks, and disruptions in the food chain, what is needed is political will to combat the food security challenges.
Importantly is the political will. Many of us say we want to end hunger and end starvation and malnutrition. But if you look at our budgetary allocation, it does not reflect that will. If you look at the expenditure profile, it does not reflect that will. Political will is not only shouting out a message, it is about taking policy action and making policy intervention that addresses the issue. So political will is about making the necessary adjustment and changes in your own local systems to support what message we're putting forward.
The president also said in a world where countries are susceptible to climate events, food production systems must be data-driven, and appropriate action and investment must be taken where and when necessary.
We have to work on reorganization of the global production system. And we have seen how heavy reliance on one area can affect us in times of conflict. So we have to examine critically the global production system and to see whether there is some reorganization that is required and what structural changes are needed to aid that reorganization.
And making reference to his recently compiled document on food security, zero hunger and malnutrition in the Caribbean 2030 and beyond, the president, who currently sits as the chair of CARICOM, said the regional bloc understands the importance of financing and insurance in the food production system.
In this region, we were able to negotiate $100 million from one private institution at very low interest rate, as is at 3%, around 3%. And that the interest rate was close to 8 to 12% for agriculture. We negotiated $100 million at 3%. But this is just, this is from the private sector, but I think the multinational system needs to adjust its financing for agriculture and the food production system so that more weight is placed on concessional loans and concessional financing to support the food production system.
President Ali also made a case for greater integration, telling the Latin America and Caribbean leaders present that CARICOM is currently working on a regional food hub that will integrate countries in South America, including Brazil and Venezuela, with countries in the north. And the Director General of the FAO, Q Dong-yu, said the conference serves as an important platform among members to share their knowledge and ideas on innovative solutions to food security challenges in the region.
By leveraging the momentum and political commitment provided by this high-level meeting, we can accelerate and strengthen our collective efforts towards transforming agriculture in the region and beyond. This is the third FAO Regional Minister Conference being held globally this year, and I'm encouraged by the high level of commitment and collaboration demonstrated by all the FAO members across various regions.
The regional conference will see discussions on regional priorities related to the food sector, including efficient, inclusive, and sustainable production. The regional conference will also address the FAO's global initiatives in the region. Police investigators in the Upper Berbice River community of 7 Mile Hururu Mission are probing the murder of a 36-year-old logger from the same community. The suspect has been identified as a friend of that logger. The Guyana police force has not released his name. However, Monday midday, the two men were reportedly consuming alcoholic and energy drinks when they got into a heated confrontation. The police said during the argument, the suspect shoved his friend Marcus Adrian to the ground and chopped him several times to his neck and face. The injured man, Marcus Adrian, attempted to run away from the area, but he collapsed and died. The suspect was apprehended by the Tushao of the village and later handed over to the police. It remains unclear what led to the deadly attack during the hangout by the two friends. A probe is on the way tonight.
In our search for sophistication and grace, the Super Stylistics team invites you to be part of something extraordinary. Mothers and daughters who possess aura and presence that transcend through time. Step forward and become part of the Mother and Daughter Pageant 2024. Join our legacy as we redefine elegance for generations to come. The search for the epitome of timeless love begins now. Call 226-2825 or 626-0460 to secure your spot in the Mother and Daughter Pageant 2024.
Guyana's economy is rapidly transforming, and we're all part of it. Guyoil is at the forefront of this development by providing reliable and efficient energy and supporting community development from the very core. 100% of Guyoil's profit goes back to building schools, roads, and other important infrastructure that connects our cities and towns, providing fuel to domestic, marine, industrial, and aerial transportation. Guyoil has now repositioned itself as a market leader in the petroleum industry, building a better future for all of us.
It's one of your biggest goals, getting your own home, where memories are made, where happiness lives. You may feel that home ownership or renovation is beyond your reach, but we at Republic want you to know that there's always a way. Ask us about our suite of mortgages. Let's help make your housing wishes come true. Or advise on how the equity in your existing home can finance other dreams and goals. Call or go online to learn more.
Holiday spending put a dent in your cash. Top up your pockets in the Cash Splash promotion. Win over $5 million, including over $1 million in our weekly draws. Just purchase any Buster, Turbo, Fruita, Cool Kids or Viva. Look for the 8-digit code starting with 786. Then visit Facebook or IG at Buster Guyana or Turbo_Caribbean for more details.
With your regional and international news tonight, I'm Svetlana Marshall. In the region, Brazil's federal police formally accused former President Jair Bolsonaro of fraud on his vaccination records, opening the door to criminal charges, according to a police report seen by Reuters on Tuesday. An investigation by the Comptroller General's office had already found that Bolsonaro's vaccination records were falsified to suggest he was vaccinated against COVID-19 in Sao Paulo in July 2021 when he was not in the city. Police found in their report that Bolsonaro could be charged with falsifying data in the country's public health system, SUS, and forming a criminal organization to evade public health rules. One of his former aides, Mauro Cid, who was arrested in May in the investigation and released as part of a plea bargain, was also formally accused in the police report. Police found that Cid fraudulently obtained vaccination records for Bolsonaro and his daughter Laura at the request of the then president. Cid's plea bargain testimony was used as evidence against his former boss. Bolivian police have carried out the second largest drug bust in the country's history, seizing more than 7.2 tons of cocaine destined for Belgium with a street value of nearly $500 million, the Interior Minister said. In a report, Reuters said the operation was carried out in Bolivia's highland region on the border with Chile. The drugs were hidden in 2 trucks transporting scrap iron for export to Europe through the Chilean ports on the Pacific. At a press conference on Monday, the Interior Minister reported that the seller of the drugs had fled the country to the United States, which he blamed on information being leaked from the prosecutor's office to the media. In January, Bolivian police carried out the country's biggest anti-drug operation by seizing more than 8 tons of cocaine, also on the border with Chile. Bolivia is one of the world's top producers of cocoa, the raw ingredient used to make say cocaine. The United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime has noted a significant rise in shipments of the drug from Bolivia, often to Europe. And finally tonight, international news. The U.S. Supreme Court on Tuesday let a Republican-backed Texas law take effect that allows state law enforcement authorities to arrest people suspected of illegally crossing the U.S.-Mexico border, rejecting a bid to block it by President Joe Biden's administration. In a report, Reuters said the court has a 6-3 conservative majority and its 3 liberal justices dissented, saying that Tuesday's action turns immigration enforcement, typically the province of the federal government, on its head. The White House press secretary said Texas law will sow chaos and confusion at the country's southern border. Republican Texas Governor Greg Abbott called the court's action clearly a positive development. The administration had asked the justices to freeze a judicial order, allowing the law to take effect while its challenge to the statute proceeds in the lower courts. The Justice Department sued in January to block the measure, which was originally set to take effect on March 5. The law violates the U.S. Constitution and federal law by interfering with the U.S. government's power to regulate immigration, as well as running afoul of a 2012 Supreme Court precedent, according to the administration. And that's your News Source Evening Bulletin for tonight. I'm Svetlana Marshall reporting and encouraging you to stay safe.